Hey, this is Ashley, and you guys are here for my very first album review. Yes, so in the past I used to do first listens, but I was getting a little tired of them, and also with a first listen, all you really get is my initial impression of a song and not how I end up feeling about it long term, which is a lot of times a lot different than my first impression. And while sometimes that first impression sticks real well, sometimes it seriously changes. So I decided that I wanted to do more so album reviews after I've had some more time to sit down and listen to the album more and really formulate real solid feelings about a particular album. So today I'm going to be talking about Infinite's Topsy. This is their third full album, and it is their very first album as Infinite as 6, which is different since previously we had 7 members of Infinite, but since Hoya has now left Infinite, we are left with the remaining 6 members, and this is their first go at it, and I'm really glad that they are already winning music shows so far, so that people are really showing their support and showing Infinite that we still love them and that they deserve all the love and that they are still serving top-notch music, I can talk, that we all really love. And Topseed, like I said, is their third full album, and it consists of 12 tracks, one of them being an intro, but then we have 11 other full-length songs. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts on each of the individual songs so I can really highlight each of them, and then I will go ahead and give you my overall feelings of the album as a whole. So the first track that I'm going to be talking about is Begin, which is the intro track, and it is a true intro, but it also is true to Infinite sound. And what I mean by a true intro is that it is a shorter song and it is more heavy on the instrumentation and less heavy on vocals. Yes, there are some vocals, but the majority of the song is instrumentation that really gives you a feel of the album that's going to be coming up. And it is a very Infinite sound. It is heavy on the strings, and that is fantastic, and one of the things that I absolutely love about Infinite, and that's exactly what we end up getting here. Another thing that I really love about Begin as a track is that it mixes the same sort of classic Infinite sound with a little bit more of an EDM feel, which is what we get also with the album. And it also does have a little bit of a rock flair, which we also tackle in the album as well. But one of my favorite things about this track is how seamlessly it flows into Tell Me, which is the title track. Tell Me is the title track, and I adore it. One of the really interesting things about Tell Me as a song is that it feels both a little bit older school K-pop and also very new school K-pop. It has a bit of the classic Infinite like orchestral sound, while also mixing in a whole bunch of EDM as well. And you get this interesting fusion, old, new, EDM, classical, and you get this thing that Infinite has created that is really, really great. It plays on regular, typical tropes that make a catchy song, like repetition and such, but it's done in such a way that it feels fresh yet comforting. One of the things that really stands out with this track is also the vocals from Woohyun and Sungyu. Obviously all the members have lines, but Woohyun and Sungyu do have the most lines in this song, comprising, I think, like in line distribution breakdowns, I think they take up like 60% of the song, something like that. But you do get a lot of Woohyun and Sungyu, and they really deliver, but that's not saying that all the members don't deliver. The song is audibly like wonderful to listen to, and I've been listening to it quite a lot, and I just don't get sick of it. And in case you haven't seen the stage, you definitely should. It's a great stage. The guys are really bringing it for this comeback, and I'm really glad that their wins are paying off for this song because it's a good song. The third track is Synchronize, which is more of a pop rock song, but it does transition really well from Tell Me into Synchronize. The sounds are a bit different, but they are not too jarring in the sense that listening from one end to the other, it still flows rather well with the album, and I ended up really catching on to Synchronize as soon as I heard it. While it's not my favorite track, it's really enjoyable to listen to. One of the things that I noticed is that there's no major impact that happens in the song. You have your rise and your build, and you expect there to be finally like a bigger hit that happens that just doesn't. And that is the only downside on it. But other than that, it's just a pretty good song. It's not really groundbreaking, but it's really fun to listen to and enjoyable to listen to. And it's one of those songs where you put it on and it's like easy to get excited and get hyped up because it is an upbeat track. Like I said, it's very kind of pop rocky. Track number 4 is No More, which actually slows the album down a bit. It is the first kind of ballad track, but it's not a true ballad, I wouldn't say, because while it does slow everything down, it has more of a ballad feel. It doesn't get to true ballad like pacing. It still maintains a little bit of an upbeat sense to it, despite being more of a ballad type song. And that is mainly because the actual verses are more like ballads, but the hook and the chorus are actually a little bit more mid-tempo. So it's this juxtaposition that's going on with No More, which is actually a really interesting thing to listen to. It's not my favorite track, but it's a good song. But one of the things that this song does do really well in that not dropping all the way down to a ballad is it leads for a very interesting transition into the next song, track number 5, which is TGIF, which is Dongwoo's solo. TGIF is probably my favorite track on the album. I absolutely adore it. It is more of a chill R&B, low-key hip-hop track, which is a lot of fun to listen to. Like I said, it is Dongwoo's solo, so you get a bit of Dongwoo singing, you get a bit of Dongwoo rapping, and overall, he just really delivers on this song. The track is engaging and has some interesting composition. While it's not like crazy and out there, it's very much a track that you can imagine here that's very Western in the way that it's presented. It doesn't sound like, it doesn't have many of the K-pop sound to it. It is very much a Western kind of song. And one of the things that I did notice is that this song actually has a lot of English. Obviously it is in Korean, but there is a lot of English that is thrown in, and I felt like it was a little bit more than the line here, line there, word here, word there kind of thing. There's actually a large chunk of English scattered throughout the song. It's not consistent, but when you sit down and you really listen to how much English is popping up, it's quite a bit, and Dongwoo does it great, and the song feels wonderful. But it did surprise me once I really started to listen to how much English was actually popping up in the song. Obviously, I'm a bit of a R&B hip-hop person, so the fact that this is an R&B song with hip-hop vibes to it was something that just really kind of hit it for me, and it's definitely probably the song that I've listened to the most often. The next track on the album is Pray, which is a group song, and I love Pray. Pray is one of my absolute favorite songs off of this album. It is amazing. This is more of a classical Infinite feel. It is very orchestral. And when I think Infinite, I often think orchestral because they really like to play with that kind of sound, and they do it really well, and Pray is a perfect example of that. Just in the first 25 seconds of the song, before any vocals drop, we get this intense orchestral build, and it's like it builds this excitement, and then we get hit with the actual lyrics. It's like you feel like you're about to go on a ride, and the song actually delivers on that. One of the interesting things that I found about the song was a bit of a juxtaposition because the song felt very staccato in certain senses, but at the same time it was extremely smooth. And you'd be like, how can something be staccato and smooth? You listen to Pray and then you might be able to get an understanding of what I'm talking about. It's the way that different sounds are just fused together. It gives this feel that I wish I had better words to describe it. One of the cool things was how it manages to build this intensity between verse to verse while still rising and following this trajectory. But throughout the song, there's still this steady progression. Like verse 1 is intense, verse 2 is more intense, but it's still following this rise and fall. And then by the time you hit Dongwoo's rap in the song, it's just like, whoa, this, like the rap is this like break that you kind of get that just fits perfectly within the song before it kicks right back up again. And I really love Pray. Next up is Why Me, which is a ballad, and it actually works as a transition from Pray rather well, even though they are very different pacing wise. The sounds of them just kind of, they work together pretty well, and it makes it really interesting because you get this ballad that's truly a ballad. It is slow, it doesn't have like rise, it's just a nice ballad, and you really get to hear and enjoy vocals. Sungjong sounds amazing, Woohyun, Sungyu, they are fantastic as always, and it's just a really good solid ballad that we get. Wind is another kind of classic Infinite sound. It is more of a pop rocky kind of sound that it's going for this time, but it feels so classic Infinite that it just feels comforting to listen to, which is really nice to me. And I just really enjoy listening to Wind because it's upbeat, it's exciting, it's fun. It's the kind of song that makes you want to dance. It's just enjoyable. One thing that I will note is that I feel like they tried to use this song as a transition into the next song, and I think Synchronize may have worked as a better transition song, and then maybe put Wind at the beginning where Synchronize was, because the transition, even though they have slightly related styles, it's very different. And the next song that I'm talking about is track 9, which is I Hate. And I Hate is very much just a straight rock song. It is not very pop rock. It doesn't have that sort of lightness to it. It's a bit harder, a bit harsher. The electric guitar in this is fantastic. The actual instrumentation is very solid rock, and it's good. It's interesting to listen to, and it's a nice song. But it just feels a little bit jarring coming from the last one. That's not to say that the song isn't a good song. It's a good song. What it is a song that I wouldn't necessarily expect from Infinite. But Infinite managed to pull it off well. And I think that they did pull off the song well. It's so different from the rest of the tracks on the album that it feels almost like a big hit. And it's like almost like when I first listened to it, I was just like, I didn't expect that. I don't know where this is coming from. But it does sound like it's a good song, and I think that it would be really great to see live. Let me just put that out there. The next track is Reminisce, which is L's solo, Myung-soo, and we don't get a whole lot of time usually to like revel in the Myung-soo voice, so it's nice that he gets this solo here. It is a straight up ballad. And it is a nice ballad. Listening to his voice is really great. He sounds wonderful in it. The one criticism that I would have for this song is that it seems to lack a build. The song is rather kind of monotone throughout. Like you get this style that's presented, and you don't really get a build going from one verse into the chorus into the next verse. It just kind of meld together. So there's this lack of intensity to it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because the song is a very pretty song to listen to. He sounds fantastic on this track. And there is one build towards the end, but I don't feel like it paid off enough. Just by the time that we finally get this sort of build, and then it just kind of just goes back to what it was, the previous tone. So I really like the song. It's actually one of my favorite tracks, but it just does seem to lack a little bit on that build. But Myung-soo sounds amazing. Track number 11 is a love song, which is Sungjong's solo. And I really like this song. It's very fun. It's kind of got this light, kind of jazzy, it's got this kind of boppiness to it that's just a lot of fun. It's one of those tracks that you listen to and it's just like, oh, I didn't really expect this to happen. It's the kind of song that you just kind of want to bop around to. And it's just a lot of fun, and I love Sungjong's voice. I've mentioned this before, he has a very distinct voice that is different from what you usually hear, and I really enjoy listening to it. And it's just like, say la la la. I just like the song. It's fun. And then finally we have Begin Again, which is the final track. You may call it an outro. I wouldn't really call it an outro because it is a full track and it's very unique on its own. It's it's not a real outro, but it does have certain elements that it does pull from a couple of the other songs. So there are some elemental callbacks that the song does have, which is very nice to have for a closing song, but it still also very much stands on its own. It is more of an orchestral sound, so you get that, which is very infinite, which I'm glad they closed off the album with something like that rather than one of the songs that were a little bit different for them. But what it does do really well is that it presents this kind of track that mixes both old and new, and you get this kind of new infinite sound that's presented that still feels very classic, but also it has that twist that I mentioned before, and you get that in this final song, and I enjoy Begin Again quite a bit. It's not my favorite track on the album, but it's what I think is the kind of track that this album needed to end with. So just some of my thoughts on the album. Like I mentioned, there are a couple of more like pop rocky songs that are on this album. In particular, Synchronize, Wind, and I Hate. I think that those are the three that they may have worked a little bit. Well, I Hate may have been a little bit less jarring if, say, we had an intro with Synchronize and then it led out with Wind. So you have this little section in the album that kind of just tips up and then back down. That way it's not as intense when you hit I Hate all of a sudden off of a track that's not particularly, like, Wind is a little bit softer, and I feel like it would have been better leading out. So that's my one criticism, because like I said, I like all of those songs. It's just the structuring of the album could have been better to cause a better flow to the album, if that makes any sense, so that I Hate isn't quite as jarring near that end of the album as it currently is, especially since it goes into some softer songs before the final song, Begin Again. So that's like my one thing that would have helped with the flow a little bit better, but I do like all the songs. As for my overall opinions of the album, if you probably couldn't tell, I really love this album. It is probably my favorite album of the year so far. And yes, it is still really early in the year, but Top Seed is setting the bar really high for my favorite albums so far. And yeah, it's a great album. I really enjoy it. Let me know what you think of the album down below, and let's go ahead and just talk about Top Seed. What are your favorite tracks? What are your least favorite tracks? What are some things that you wish they could have done differently? What are some things that you really loved? I'm really curious what you think about this album, but I know I definitely love it. And yeah, if you guys like this video, please make sure you like it. If you'd like to see me do more album reviews in the future, please make sure that you comment. Let me know that you want more of these. I'm planning on doing at least one more, but if you guys don't like these videos, obviously I'm not gonna continue to do them. But yeah, please let me know in the comments down below. I will see you guys next time. I'm out. 제발 다시 내게 돌아와줘. 제발 다시 내게 돌아와줘. 어디 가든 어디 있든 네가 그리워 못 참겠어. 제발 다시 내게 돌아와줘. 제발 다시 내게 돌아와줘. Tell me love.